Government issues a statement, urges patience. Sports, TVC secures rights to air AFCON 2025.
We are prepared. We were able to secure rights to broadcast 32 matches.
Good evening. My name is Nasa Kingu. Just a reminder, you can also follow us live via our YouTube channel, TVC Online, and also get all the latest news through our Instagram, Facebook, and X pages at TVC Online. We start in Mwanza, where Prime Minister Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba says as part of implementing President Samia Suluhu Hassan's promises to Tanzanians, the government of Tanzania has approved 12,000 new jobs, including 5,000 in the health sector and 7,000 in the education sector, while interviews for the jobs will begin on December 10th, 2025 in each region, and the newly selected employees will report to the appointed centers from January 10th, 2026, a move that will further strengthen the delivery of services in the country. The Prime Minister made the remarks today while addressing thousands of residents of Ilemela and Nyamagana in the Mwanza region, insisting that the completion of the much-needed education and health infrastructure in the country by the government requires a sufficient workforce, hence initiative to employ more Tanzanians in the key sector, vowing implementation of outlined 13 priority areas within 100 days since President Samia Suluhu Hassan assumed the office.
Mheshimiwa Rais akasema ndani ya siku 100 wataajiriwa watumishi wa afya.
President Samia promised that within 100 days, health practitioners and teachers will be employed. As we speak, an announcement has been released for 12,000 job positions, 5,000 in the health sector and 7,000 in the education sector.
The Prime Minister Mwigulu Nchemba has furthermore urged Tanzanians not to be misguided by people who do not wish Tanzania well. The government of Tanzania urges development partners and governments, especially those in the European Union and the United States, to recognize the efforts made by the government to establish the Inquiry Commission to investigate the issue and issue a report on what led to the violence that occurred during and after the October 29th general elections. According to a statement issued by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, the government insists Tanzania will continue to cooperate with all development partners and governments in development plans and remains committed to constructive international cooperation for peace and development for mutual interest and equal partnership. Recently, development partners and various governments issued statements regarding Tanzania following the events that happened during and after the October 29th, 2025 elections. We move now to the energy sector, where the Minister of Energy, Deogratius Dejembi, says government has invested more than 13.5 trillion Tanzanian shillings in 41 strategic energy projects aiming at strengthening power generation and distribution across the country. Here's a report prepared by Rehema Sebabili, read by Antonia Kivaria.
Out of this project, 6 focus on electricity generation, while 35 are dedicated to expanding and modernizing electricity distribution infrastructure. Speaking in Dar es Salaam during the launch of the country's new smart electricity meters, Minister Dejembi insists in the investments from parts of the government's borders strategy to upgrade national energy infrastructure and ensure citizens have access to reliable electricity, a key enabler of economic productivity and industrial growth.
Through smart meters, citizens will be able to load electricity from anywhere. They will monitor their consumption in real time, and the customer will receive accurate information every second through the modern system and know when their electricity is about to run out.
On the other hand, Dar es Salaam Regional Commissioner Albert Chalamila noted that the introduction of smart meters is expected to improve services efficiently and support uninterrupted energy supply, which is essential for business operations and industry activities.
Unaposema taifa uchumi wake unakuwa,
When you say a nation's economy is growing, its measure is the GDP. And when you say the GDP is increasing, when you divide it by the population, each citizen is considered to be wealthier. That wealth is measured by production and exportation.
Meanwhile, TANESCO's managing director, Lazaro Twage, emphasizes the smart meter will generate significant operational benefits to the utility.
The first major advantage is that these meters can store records for up to 13 months. This means that if your meter gets damaged, we can easily retrieve your electricity records.
Antonia Kivaria, TBC News.
Let's now take a look at another interesting story of the day. President of Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, Felix Tshisekedi, and the President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, have signed a peace agreement aiming at ending a long-running conflict in the region. The agreement was signed in Washington in a meeting which was hosted by U.S. President Donald Trump. The event was also attended by other African leaders from Kenya, Angola, Burundi, and Togo, as well as the Vice President of Uganda.
Our region is far from the headlines. But when the President saw the opportunity to contribute to peace, he immediately took it. This conflict has lasted for 30 years. We have seen countless mediations and efforts, but none has succeeded in resolving the underlying issues. President Trump introduced a new and effective dynamism that created the space for breakthroughs.
The Washington agreements are not yet another document. These represent a turning point. They bring together under a coherent architecture a declaration of principles of a peace agreement and also the regional economic integration framework to provide to the peoples of the region a new perspective, a new outlook, namely to finally overcome the cycle of violence, of forced displacements, of mistrust, defiance, in order to begin a new era of friendship, cooperation, and prosperity, all shared together.
To assess more this new development, TBC News spoke with political analyst Veteranus Diagira.
The peace deal brokered by United States of America between the Rwanda government and the Congo, in its nature, yes, it can lower the risks between the tension of war between two nations. But in its uniqueness, it is unlikely to settle the crisis which is going on in the Congo. This is actually one layer issue. It's a one layer kind of a solution, looking at nations tensions, but we have a multi-layered kind of issues. It is regional, at the same time economical and historical. So looking at the previous ones, looking from the Angola process to Nairobi process, coming to these, the one which was signed prior, back then in March, May, then it did not yield the results. Or rather, we saw groups such as the M23 increasing its sense and its energy and its vigor against the government. And the two nations actually, it has been identified that one, FDLR should be neutralized by the Congolese government. At the same time, M23 should not be supported by the Rwanda government. But at the same time, it's speaking of withdrawal of troops from the Congo. Now, all these are nice kind of observations and are kind of suggestions. But still, the two nations, especially Congo itself, still with some issues to deal internally, and the question of governance, as the world is saying. The problem in the Congo is two things, historical, at the same time governance issue. The moment they be able to speak within the groups within the nation, the M23 and the other groups such like Codeco and many others, it could be much easier to jump to one stage which is much better and strengthened.
The Senior Directing Staff for SDS of the National Defense College of Tanzania, NDC, Brigadier General Charles Ndiege, says Tanzania's standard gauge railway SGR continues to be a major strategic project to Tanzania's economic development. Brigadier General Charles Ndiege made the remarks in the coast region at the HGR marshalling yard located at Kuala during a practical training visit involving 72 participants undergoing long-term training from the college. Here's a report by Erica Kisoli, read by Father Ngaga.
It is a journey of approximately 40 minutes from Magufuli Station in Dar es Salaam to the SGR marshalling yard at Kuala in the coast region. The leader of the delegation of the National Defense College of Tanzania, NDC, is Brigadier General Charles Ndiege, and here highlights the importance of the modern SGR railway.
The construction of SGR is one of the pillars that will facilitate quickly the transportation of cargo and other facilities from Tanzania to the neighboring countries. And that one will facilitate the development of Tanzania economically as well as enhancing welfare being of the Tanzanians.
On the other hand, the Acting Director General of Tanzania Railway Corporation, TRC, Engineer Tito Mateshi, says the visit, which included participants from outside Tanzania, is an opportunity to promote the country to the world.
They came to Tanzania Railway Corporation to study and to learn how TRC and also the government of United Republic of Tanzania has managed to construct this SGR line, which is a mega project, is a milestone and a historic project. And as you are aware, this standard gauge railway line from Dar es Salaam all the way to Mwanza, Kigoma, Uvinza, and Msongati is the longest standard gauge railway line in Africa. So for them, they are very much curious. How did the government of United Republic of Tanzania manage to secure financing, manage to construct this mega project peaceful as of to now that we are still in operation?
Some of the participants of the training say through the visit, they were able to learn more on the SGR project's role in accelerating countries' growth, while others explain how beneficial the training has been.
Also see the importance of SGR, how it's helped us to getting a lot of opportunity for our youth, getting jobs opportunity, but it also attracted the investors from the external and internals. But it's, SGR, it's not just an infrastructure. It's one of the main developments it's one of the main reasons for development in our country.
I've studied a number of courses, modules that talk about strategy, talk about policy, talk about diplomacy, talk about international business, talk about international countries forming alliances and reasons why countries form blocs and reasons why countries do multinational and bilateral relations into economics, politics, and also international development.
The visit, which included senior instructors, officers, and participants of the 14th NDC course, focused on exploring the contribution of modern railways in promoting national development and security in Tanzania. Father Ngaga, TBC News.
From the transport sector, we move now to the trade sector, where the Deputy Minister for Industry and Trade, Patrobas Katambi, urges Fair Competition Commission, FCC, and Fair Competition Tribunal, FCT, to scale up the use of artificial intelligence in monitoring and detecting market practices that undermine fair competition. Speaking in Dar es Salaam during the World Competition Day commemoration, Katambi stresses that deploying AI-driven systems will enable the authorities to more effectively identify anti-competitive behaviors and collusive agreements among competitors on bid participation or bid allocation, practices that distort market efficiency and harm consumer welfare.
Mmonyoko wa maadili ndio unaweza kufanya AI ikatumika hasi.
The erosion of ethics is what can lead to the misuse of AI, and the same erosion of business ethics creates an environment where people conduct business outside proper and lawful procedures.
On the other hand, the acting general of FCC, Adija Ngasongwa, says the commission is fully committed in strengthening the enforcement of the competition laws to support national economic objectives, particularly those aiming at fostering resilient, inclusive and competitive economy as outlined in the National Development Vision 2050.
When the Fair Competition Commission regulates competitions, it directly protects the interests of the final consumer. This is because when prices are fixed to suppress fair competition, the person who ultimately suffers is the customer.
We move now to the Arusha region, where wildlife researchers and tourism stakeholders in the country, in collaboration with African countries, say the studies and research that are being conducted have been productive for conservation and the tourism activities as they provided direction and answers to various challenges that rise in conservation activities. Speaking in Arusha, Deputy Permanent Secretary in charge of tourism from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Tourism, Nkoba Mabula, insists that the studies and research conducted should bring answers to conservation activities so as to promote tourism through sustainable conservation. Here's a report by Sotila Kongola, read by Faidangaga.
Wildlife researchers, scientists, and tourism stakeholders from more than 600 African countries are here in Arusha to attend the 15th scientific conference that has brought them together to brainstorming ways to new productive studies and research that will boost tourism. The director of the Tanzania Wildlife Research Institute, TAWIRI, Dr. Eblate Mjingo, and the WWF Southern Kenya and Northern Tanzania project manager, Professor Noah Sitati, elaborate the studies that have been productive.
We have been practicing conservation using traditional methods that have existed for many years. However, the challenges we face today are much bigger and more complex, and they require collective solutions. We are also required to respond quickly because if we do not act now, we will be too late. Honestly, we have written many papers and delivered around 6 presentations. This training that my team and I received in Ruvuma has been extremely important because we have learned so many fundamental things that will greatly strengthen our work.
The Deputy Permanent Secretary in charge of Tourism, Ministry of Natural Resources and Tourism, Nkoba Mabula, concludes by insisting that the results of the studies will be used to their full potential to bring positive results intended in conservation and tourism activities.
Our focus now is to explore which technologies exist, especially those that researchers have identified as useful. If there are solutions that have already been discovered, we can apply them to address these challenges.
Speaker of the Parliament, Musa Azan Zungu, has met and held talks with the Indian ambassador to Tanzania, Biswadip Day, and the ambassador of Qatar to Tanzania, Fahad Rashid Al Merki, at the Parliament sub-office in Dar es Salaam. Speaking at the session, the Indian ambassador to Tanzania said the Indian government will continue to exploit investment opportunities in the country, as well as continue to provide short-term and long-term training opportunities for Tanzanians in Tanzania and in India. The Indian ambassador to Tanzania has described the existing cooperation between the Indian Parliament and the Tanzanian Parliament to be historical. On his part, the Qatari ambassador to Tanzania, Fahad Rashid, says that Qatar will continue to strengthen bilateral and diplomatic relations with Tanzania, including strengthening parliamentary diplomacy. And he adds that Qatar Parliament is ready to form parliamentary friendship groups between Tanzania and Qatar. Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation TBC Director General Dr. Ayub Rioba has congratulated 2 journalists from Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation TBC for winning the Most Outstanding Interview Award at the Africa Media Awards held in Ethiopia last night. Speaking after the announcement, Dr. Ayub Rioba has praised the achievement as a sign of growing impact of young journalists in shaping Africa's narrative.
First of all, I should like to thank the organizers of this award. They are reputable people, and to me it was fantastic. There's a story to it. I personally believed in the people who were to take over from Mzee Adam Simbeye, who was the host of the popular program This Week in Perspective. And we gave this new program a little bit of twist in the sense that we changed a little bit the name into Focus This Week.
Furthermore, Dr. Rioba underscores the importance of believing in young people and insisting young people to be optimistic and take initiatives in driving change, especially in the spirit of Pan-Africanism.
Example of that. This is very encouraging. And particularly that aspect which you put into your question, the aspect of Pan-Africanism. You know, there are lots of people who today misconceive or misunderstand what it is to be Pan-African. They think it's something of the past, something irrelevant today, but the fact is we need Pan-Africanism today more than we ever needed it. I mean, for the challenges we are going through as Tanzanians, for example, now, today, those of us in the know, those of us who peruse these books to understand what's going on in the world, we understand that Pan-Africanism is more important today than it has ever been.
On the other hand, Caroline Malewa expresses her excitement after the win, thanking TVC for its continued support and encouragement.
The appreciation to the Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation for trusting me to run this program that was done before it was called This Week in Perspective, and was done by Mzee Simbeye back then. So I'm really happy that they trusted a young person, and me and my colleague, my co-producer, Sam Clinton, who is also a director, and the other team members, we've been able to actually deliver quality that was required, and we're able to win this award.
The award-winning interview with Madaraka Nyerere highlighted reflections on leadership, legacy, and the importance of Africans taking charge of their own stories. Many congratulations there to our own Caroline Malewa. Deputy Minister of Finance Laurent Leswatula says the National Board of Accountants and Auditors, NBAA, awards which recognize the companies and institutions that are best in preparation of financial statements for the year 2024 have become a bridge to promote accountability and integrity in the use of public funds in the country. Here are more details.
The winners of the awards. He made the remarks during the awards night, where more than 80 public and private institutions had submitted their financial statements, assuring the National Board of Accountancy and Auditors, NBAA, that the government will continue to support them in producing professionals in the area of accounting and auditing.
Over the past 2 days, you have participated in most very important discussions on the future of the profession and its contribution to the national development. This conference has served as a meaningful platform to address the critical issues related to the sustainable of the profession, centered on the same stated, shaping the future of the accountants profession, trends and insight.
The objective of the Best Presented Financial Statements Awards, which has been established by our board, is to encourage and enhance accountability, transparency, and integrity in compliance with financial reporting standards and other disclosure requirements, particularly on corporate governance practices.
Drug Control and Enforcement Authority, DCEA, and Tanzania Shipping Agency, TASAC, are among the winners of the awards, who all say the awards are symbolic to Tanzania's commitment to transparency and accountability.
These awards show that the use of the funds given to us by the government is used with the highest level of integrity. We have won in the regulatory authorities category, and this award means a lot to us and the people we serve.
Kigoma Region and Kigoma Council have won the Local Government Authority category, where the Kigoma Regional Commissioner, Ambassador Simon Siro, insists the awards are a sign of their responsibility to the people of Kigoma. Faida Ngaga, TBC News.
Well, now, before we wind up our local news tonight, let us now have a look at today's exchange rates according to the Bank of Tanzania, BOT. Don't miss TBC News every weekday to know all the latest in exchange rates. Sports news up next. In sports news, the Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation TBC Director General Dr. Ayub Rioba says TBC has secured the rights to broadcast 32 matches of the 2025 African Cup of Nations AFCON, which is expected to be held from December 21st to January 18th in Morocco, underscoring corporation's commitment to Tanzania's sports development.
We are prepared to broadcast AFCON games just like we did the other time with Chan, but we have also broadcast World Cup every year that World Cup tournaments have taken place. So we are prepared. We were able to secure rights to broadcast 32 matches. We wanted to broadcast all of them, but then with the new arrangements it wasn't possible. But at least we were able to secure those 32, which we are going to broadcast on radio and also on television. And we will make sure that we give a priority to AFCON matches that are going to be taking place in Morocco from mid-December up to January.
Furthermore, Dr. Rioba adds that Tanzanians should expect more creative and quality improvements in the broadcasting of the 2025 AFCON matches and what it means for the station to get the rights to broadcast the games.
Best commentary and of those 32 matches that we hope to broadcast. I said before, TBC has always been doing improvements. Always. I mean, if you watch TBC this year, it won't be the same next year. Some things shall have changed. So from the setup of the studio, the quality of the pictures, and the preparedness of the anchors, you know, all of that, and the commentators, all of that is going to bring a whole new experience to those who are preparing to watch. I can assure you that. It's important. You know, you see, this is something that shouldn't have been that difficult for TBC to secure, because first of all, public service media normally have wider tentacles compared to other, you know, privately owned media. We have wider reach compared to other media, and this is obvious because it's our mandate. That's how we are supposed to be. Previously, public service media were given priority because they could reach more people than any other media. It's unfortunate that in recent years, I think commercial considerations are taking over. And therefore, it was very difficult, actually, and very expensive for us to be able to secure the rights to broadcast even those 32 matches.
25 AFCON schedule will be shared ahead of the games through TBC's media platforms. And that marks the end of the news bulletin for tonight. Don't miss our next bulletin in Kiswahili at 11 p.m. On behalf of the whole team, I am Nasa King. We wish you a good night and, of course, a constructive weekend.